Hey, it's Matt Pinfield. This is KLOS, new and approved. My guest is Scott Stevens from the band The Exies, who are reunited, and we're very excited about it. Band I've loved for a long time from Los Angeles, and I've spoken about Scott many times on the show and about all the artists that he has produced and written songs for, and we're really happy to have him joining us today. Scott Stevens. Scott, good to see you.
Good to see you, Matt. Thank you so much for having me, man.
Scott, I was really happy when you released the first single, Spirits High. I got to hear that early, and I love that track. Talk to me about getting the band and deciding to do it and get it back together.
Well, it wasn't a real planned thing. We released the song. Well, I released the song in January of 2023, and about a month after that, I got a call from Dennis Wolf, who's the drummer for the Exies, and he said, "I really like this song. We should go to dinner." And we went and had sushi, and unbeknownst to me, he basically was planning to say, like, we need to do some shows. We need to get back in and play again. It's been nearly 20 years. It's time. And at first I kind of I resisted. And then he called me a week after the dinner, convinced me a little bit more. And then I finally called him and said, okay, you want to do this? I want to do this. How do we do it? And we started making phone calls, and we called Freddie Herrera, who was the bass player. And then I'd call Chris Skane, who was our guitar player on Modern Way of Living with the Truth. Because David Walsh had passed,
That was sad
unfortunately. News. And, the conversations just started, and we figured it out, and we couldn't actually rehearse for quite some time because of schedules, but at least we got, we started talking on the phone a lot, making plans, picking songs, rehearsing on our own, and finally last October, we started rehearsing. And in January, we decided to book a show. And that's going to probably be talked about right now.
So the show is happening Wednesday, the 29th, which is really exciting because L.A. is where the band started. Can you talk to me, Scott, about coming to L.A. and how you put the band together in the first place?
Well, I came to L.A. from Colorado with the dream that a lot of people have to put a band together, to play on the Strip, to get a record deal, to tour, the cliche, all of it. And I was just a guitar player back then. And I was in a band with talented people, but just not as, I guess, maybe as motivated as I was. And I was forced to write songs, learn how to sing those songs. And when that happened, things started happening, and I would play it for the bass player, and I'd play it for the drummer, and everybody kind of said, hey, there's a sound here, there's something going on, we should just start a side project. And so that side project was what I called The Exies, which I got from John Lennon's autobiography.
The Existentials.
They hung around a group of kids in I guess art school that weren't mods, and they weren't rockers, they were existentialists, Exies. And basically we just started doing demos, and then we did a gig, and the love started happening immediately, and within less than a year we had management, and within less than 2 we got a record deal, and I think it was on a small label called Ultimatum, and we started to tour on that, and on that tour somebody gave our EP to Matt Serletic, who was at Melisma and was just getting ready to become the CEO of Virgin. And he loved it, came out and saw us. We did a terrible show. He walked out, and I chased him down the street and convinced him to please just listen to the new songs. And one of them was My Goddess. And he heard it, and he said, okay, let's get in and demo it, and let's see how it how it grows up. And we did a demo, and then before I knew it, we were making a record, and that became the first single, and that's how it all kind of got started. That's the fast abbreviated version.
I love that song from Inertia. What a great song. I mean, it's still one of my favorites. I mean, I've put it on so many mixes, and it's like my favorite treadmill. It's on many of those playlists because I love that track so much.
Thank you so much.
Became a big fan of the band's because of that.
Yeah. And David brought that song in. We were in a hotel in Reno, and he said, I have this idea. And he and I finished it. And I thought it was I thought it was next level for us at that time, and I was glad to see, what it did, and it brought us to you too.
Yeah.
You were the first guy to ever say our name on television and to, lift us up a little bit. So that's why this is a full circle moment.
It was great because, one of the cool things was I was actually, during the pandemic, doing a live stream from Nashville with Chris Daughtry, who you produce and write with.
Yeah.
And you, one of many artists that you've been writing great stuff with. And he just mentioned you, and I went, from the Exies, I go, text him right now and tell him that I'm a huge fan. So that's how it started, our friendship through that, which I think is amazing.
Yeah.
So, this show is so great. It's, doing a hometown show where you guys started the band, getting back together. Playing with Freddie and the guys, I think it's going to be amazing. It's exciting, isn't it? How do you, when you have to take that time to get into that mode of performing again, how do you, is it something that do you spend much time thinking about that, or do you just kind of go with it?
Yeah, I mean, I spend time thinking about it. I've been practicing, and I do a lot of visualization in my head because I have to try to get back to where I was 20 years ago, and I haven't done it we haven't had a gig since our last show, which was in Russia.
Was that with Motley Crue when you?
No, this was an MTV Music Awards in Russia. It was like 60,000 people. We played with Flyleaf and a few other bands. And that was the last show that we ever did. And that was 2010. Yeah, something like that. So 14 years since we played, but it's been like 19 years since we played with Dennis, the guy that was on My Goddess and Ugly and those other songs. So yeah, you know what? I'm going to jump into the Shark Tank and I'm going to paddle and I'm going to swim and we're going to just let it be what it's going to be. We have no warm-up gigs before it. We have rehearsals. Some of it comes back like riding a bike. We did thousands of shows. So, but some of it is going to be new again and maybe a little frightful. But if it doesn't scare you, then it's probably not worth doing.
Right, exactly. I mean, it's one of those things. It's a great challenge. Scott, one of the things that I've talked about many times on the show, your name comes up, is because literally on the countdown this week, you have, I think there's 3 songs you either wrote or produced on our countdown. I mean, it's amazing to me. I mean, you have become this incredible producer and songwriter, so much so that when I talk to the artists, they have such a love and trust for you, which is something that isn't easy to come by when artists get to that feeling about a person that they work with.
Sure.
Can you talk to me about that transition and when you knew that you were going to go into that direction of writing and producing?
Sure. I mean, it didn't start as a positive thing. I saw the band, the Exies, kind of waning, and watching that have to be kind of put down like a lame horse was very difficult. But out of it, I still had my love of writing. I still had my love of production, as I was involved with all the producers when we were doing our records, either really paying attention or suggesting things, even from the demo days, before we got signed. And making that transition, I was very conscious of, I know the band life. I was in a band. I toured for 12 years. These are the people I know. These are the songs that I know how to write. And I'm just going to go with my strength on this and see where I land. And I got really lucky right off the bat. Like Theory of a Dead Man, Tyler and I wrote a song. That was one of my first cuts, and it made it into Transformers, Dark of the Moon. And that song got me to Lzzy Hale. And Lzzy Hale and I wrote Miss the Misery. That was our first co-write together. And then I met Brent Smith from Shinedown from that. And it just kind of started to go, because the songs we were writing were working. They were infiltrating the whether it was film or radio or whatever it might be, and I was with my people, So it was comfortable. It was still hard to learn the production aspect, being the only one doing it now, hands on. But that, just like anything, you do it enough and you learn what it is that you need to do to be able to get from point A to point B. And that study and that time was all on me. But the writing became augmented in the best way by working with very talented people like Chris, like Johnny Hawkins from Nothing More, like Dorothy, like Brent, like Lzzy, like Johnny Stevens from Highly Suspect. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to work with a lot of very talented people.
Yeah, I mean it's incredible. I mean the different things that you've written and with people. And recently on the Countdown too, Scott Stapp and Dorothy.
Scott
that
Stapp,
song.
yeah, exactly.
And you're the reason why that kind of came together, right? I mean, he was looking now. At the time, he'd never done a duet before, right?
Yeah.
If These Walls Could Talk, and you worked on Higher Power with him, and this great collaboration came out of that as well.
Amazing. It's beautiful, that song.
And let's talk about, working with Dorothy, who absolutely adores you as well. And what's the latest? Is there a new? You guys are halfway.
There's a new record. We're actually mixing it right now. I have 3 mixes in my inbox I have to approve after this, after new and approved.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. I think it's her best record yet. It's her most adventurous record. She's a force, and she's an amazing singer, amazing collaborator. I couldn't be happier. We've been doing this for a year now, so we're almost at the finish line, so it's coming.
She said that Rest in Peace, it was like you really read her where she was at in a relationship and kind of where she was. You're really able to channel the feeling and the emotion that the artist that you're working with feels. I mean, and these are this on that instance, Rest in Peace becoming number one rock record, a great song that you wrote for her. Out of these conversations that you had and this feeling, talk to me about that.
Yeah, well, it started with those conversations, and I also am a part of a writing crew called the Four Horsemen, and we're based out of they're based out of Nashville. I'm here in L.A. And it's 4 of us. It's myself, Marty Fredrickson, Blair Daly, and Zach Malloy. And we talk occasionally about artists that we're working with. And in that week, we were aiming at maybe could we write something for Dorothy? Could we write a start for Dorothy? And I came in with, I got a title called Rest in Peace, and I got this lyric that kind of goes like this. But the song was completely different. It was upbeat, and it didn't fit the mood, I think, at the end of the day, but I thought the lyric that we hatched was really on point. And, just like most creativity that works, it just comes when it's supposed to. You can't really force it. And there was a morning that I went to the piano, had my coffee, and I figured out how to make those lyrics fit to a different piece of music. And I called the guys and said, what do you think about this? And everybody said, that's clearly better than where we started. And I said, okay, I'm going to call Dorothy and I'm going to see what she thinks about it, and then she and I can finish it off. And she loved it. And it felt like right on point. And like you said, it was what she was going through in her life. And, she got in, and I have a voice memo of her on my iPhone. I hit record just to kind of document the day, and it's her singing like the first verse and the chorus, and it's like amazing. It's what you hear, on the record. So she just nailed it. She knew exactly what to do with it, and that's where our friendship began, and I think that's what got me the producing gig for the record too.
Which is great. And Chris Daughtry, what an incredible talent he is. And
yeah.
In your relationship with Chris too, he loves to write with you, and he has so much comfort and feels that you really are able to really get across, what he's feeling. And Pieces, which is also on the Countdown this week, is another track that was so personal to him. And he said how you came to him with some lines that you thought were good, and he built off of that. Talk to me about something like that, Scott, because that's dealing with someone people deal with, incredible different things in life, incredible loss, love. I mean, there's songs that are for empowerment. There are things to get you through.
Sure.
And that's kind of what this song was about, Pieces. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, Pieces was the very first piece of music that I came in with when we started to write for this record, where Artificial became the single. I had the riff, the da 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 da, which is like a waltz, and I thought, well, that's pretty cool. And as I started to work on that, I started to think about what Chris had just gone through. And I took a little bit of a leap. And I just was like, will he want to talk about this difficult situation? And if he does, maybe these lines will help unlock this idea. But I feel like I need to ask permission to be able to talk about this.
Yeah.
And when I got with him, I said, I have some lines, but I don't want to overstep here because this is very, very personal. And, if we're going to go in on this, we got to go all the way. And he was receptive to it, and he was open. And I didn't have much. I just had a couple of lines, and I had the music part of it. And he and Marty and I just went at it, and just like we did with Artificial and the other songs, and we just start crafting it. But we crafted out of a small little demo that I have of, here's a guitar, bass, and drums, and a little melody that I'm singing in the air. Nothing's recorded. Yeah. I don't want anything to sound too final. They have to be able to own it, see themselves in it, personalize it, and that's important. If I'm just going to write the whole song, then I might as well do it. So it's you gotta. That's where that collaboration thing happens. So.
Yeah, it's great how that's.
It's essential.
It is, and again, it's such a personal song. And Artificial went to #1, which was great for Chris to have that #1 that he's deserved for.
That was There's another one. I had a riff and I had a title, and that was it. And we went from there.
I love that too. I think it's so great. So, talk to me with the Four Horsemen too. Tell me how you guys all became friends. Because did you know Zach Malloy from his days in the Nixons too? Because that's where I knew Zach from back then. And Marty, of course, for having written "Jaded," the great Aerosmith song. Talk to me about getting together with those guys. How that came about.
Zach was my very, very first co-write outside of being in the band world. We had toured together. He took me on my very first tour ever. Which showed me the ropes of how to tour and how you can't party after the third show. You've got no voice and no energy, and learning the discipline of supporting a record. But he and I stayed in contact, and he shot off from the Nixons to do a solo record, and he came to LA to do co-writes, and he said, "Would you like to do a co-write with me?" And I said, "I don't even really know what that is, but let's try it." And we wrote a song called "Homesick" that went on his debut, self-titled, whatever.
Yeah.
And that friendship, from that first tour through that, we kept in contact for years. And then, just through dealings of being in Nashville, I saw him all the time, and he introduced me to Blair. And oddly enough, Zach Malloy's first co-write was Marty Fredrickson. And Marty gave me the first chance at producing and writing with two guys that he was working with. So it's this weird circle that became whole. It was splintered a little bit in the beginning, but then we all became friends and working all the time and talking about the same artists. And I wrote with her last week, and I did. I got her next week, or I've got this band coming next week, that. Over years led to maybe we should partner up on the writing side. And
it's cool that you did, because it was a very organic thing to do.
Completely.
And a kind of one of those philosophies these are guys I actually like to hang out with, so I'm working with people I like. You know what I mean? Which makes a major difference, right?
Yeah.
And it's incredible just how you guys have been able to do such a good thing. But again, you keep it personal.
We keep it personal, and everybody knows their lane, too, in the Four Horsemen. Everybody kind of has a role, and it's an engine. Everybody does something a little bit different, and that's why it works the way that it does. I don't do the same things that Blair does or Marty does. I do different things, and they know how to accent that, and I know how to accent what they do. So it's very selfless, and it's all about just getting to the final result and making it speak and feel so that we can relate to it in some way.
Yeah.
If you care to listen to it,
Yeah. I think I speak for other Exies fans like myself in the Southern California area that were really excited about this show. And I remember, sitting with Kara back when I first got, you sent me a copy of Spirits High, which is a song that I loved, and we debuted here as well. The first song for the Exies in a long time, and then For What It's Worth, which we also debuted here. We got to talk about the new single, which SAD, and I see you're sporting the shirt as well, which is great.
This is a test T-shirt that my wife did, and I love it.
Flavia is amazing, by the way. Can we? I think we should give Flavia some massive love for being really involved, also with some of the great artist videos. Of course, let's talk about that.
She's done Daughtry's Artificial video,
which is an incredible video, by the way. I mean, that was like one of the most. To me, that was next level for Chris.
Completely, and she just did pieces too. So she got to bring be a part of live wolves and things of that nature, and putting amazing elements together and bringing amazing people together. She has a knack for it, so she's in the mix, with me all the time, so helping me, telling me what songs are good and what songs are crap.
It's great. So. It's great when you have that right hand. You know what I mean? It really is. We consider ourselves very lucky. Yeah. As the four of us have hung out, which I love, which I think is great.
Yes.
So this song, I think it speaks for a lot of people, and I want you to tell everybody what SAD's about, because I definitely have this. And that's why I live in Southern California now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As opposed to New Jersey, New York City, where I spent much of my life, and I love it here in Southern California so much. But tell me let's talk about it.
Well, Sad is the first song that came out of the lockdown, I think, for me, and I think for others too, of what is this new reality, and will this ever end? And coping with that and learning how to deal with that moving forward, as nobody ever prepared us for it. So it was the first kind of shoegazery, I'm depressed kind of a thing. But I also have seasonal affective disorder, and it's a real thing for me that happens every year. And I think that when COVID hit, it kind of amplified that, and not just in that, but the seasonal part of it being the change in the globe, the change in the world, and how we're feeling things and how we're trying to cope with things. And, like Spirits High, this song came before it. This was the first one, and it was more like a diary song. It was more like, I'm just going to write this to write it. Nobody's ever going to hear this. And I couldn't finish it. I had trouble finishing it, but when I would go back and look at the lyrics, I'm like, that's a pretty depressing song, but there's some hope peppered in there of basically, I just want change is what I'm really saying in this song. I just want change. And, I got on Spirits High out of it, and I was able to finish that one, and it had a little bit more of a, hopefully, sullen, optimistic kind of vibe to it. And it won the race as far as being the first one done. And I felt that was the right song to be released. But for the people that love that song was born because of this song. And, we're going to put it out. It's going to drop the day of the show, and we'll see how people feel about it. It definitely has the same kind of character vibe as Spirits High, a very, what the hell's going on, and the diary type of song. So that's the document, at least for me, and what I felt at that time. And if you can relate to it, great.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's great because, of course, we're debuting it here on the show, but and we actually debuted it earlier. But I want to say that a lot of people have seasonal affective disorder, and until I knew that was a thing, I didn't realize that I actually got it. You know what I mean? And it's and I feel that it's weather and where you are in the seasons and changing. It definitely. I mean, I think a lot of more people have that than they probably even know.
Yeah, because, it gets to be fall and you've made plans, and then, the seasons, definitely things change. You're going into a more of a reflective time. And for me, it's like, have I done the things that I said I was going to do? And are things moving the way that I thought they would? Because another year's about ready to pass. So that is helping to fuel my insecurities, and am I doing enough? Am I being enough? And that's where it comes from. I mean, I think it's appropriate. We're going to call it Feel Good Song of the Summer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something like that.
No, but it's cool. I like when people write from, those different emotions and experiences and feelings. I think it's cool because there's got to be something for every feeling that you have, Music is the one thing. It's the one thing that I think is always there to helps you get through. You know what I mean? Whether it's a great time and you're celebrating, or whether it's, any event in your life. So I think that it's really important.
Thank you, man. Well, it's a platform, and it basically, like I said, if whoever cares to listen, listens and takes away from it hopefully they see themselves in it somewhere.
Do you think there might be some more shows in the future? Because this show that's happening on Wednesday, The Viper, is going to be great. I'm very excited to be there. Me and my friend Chuck Armstrong from Loudwire Nights are going to be there with Chuck. You guys, bringing you on. And I'm really pumped about it that it's a KLOS event as well. So, but I wanted to say, have you thought? Are you going to just see how things go, or are you thinking about maybe will this spawn some more shows in the future?
Nope, this is it. One and done.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Hard to say, right?
It's hard to say. We're going to do this and see. I mean, there is talk, and I think there's want within my management company. And will we do more? That answer is not been answered yet. So
yeah, I mean,
we're going to throw it all in here, and if this is it, then it's special, and we all got to share in it for whatever's going to happen. And hopefully it's enough. But if we are lucky enough to play more shows together, I think it'd be amazing. I mean, to be able to stand on the stage with those three guys is really kind of a miracle after all this time.
Yeah, it's great.
And to be able to play these songs that got us to our places in life.
Yeah,
right now.
From My Goddess to Ugly to Spirit's High, everything in between.
Yeah,
which is great. I'm very excited about it. I want to just tell you. My last question is going to be Scott, because obviously I'm always excited to hear what you're working on next. I know that Dorothy, you're finishing up with Dorothy, and also and Chris. Like I said, you've written with Shinedown and Hailstorm. Is there anything else that you can tell us about now that we can look for in the next 6 months or so that you've been working on song wise or production wise?
Well, we're going to drop an EP.
Yeah. Okay.
On June 28th.
Oh, that's great.
And
that's
it's
really
going to be
cool.
the first 6 songs. It's called Closure.
Yeah.
And it is, in some ways, this chapter has to close out. Like I said, all these songs were written in that COVID bubble time, and they developed over the last 3 years. And when I could get to them in between projects and whatnot, so it's time to put them out and then throw some dirt on the coffin and with a rose, and just kind of see what happens from there, and if there's a next chapter, then I will let everybody know, and the band will decide, and we will make a group decision about it.
Well, we're gonna, I'm excited because we're gonna celebrate. We're gonna celebrate the Exies getting back together,
and you're gonna MC.
I'm pumped about that.
I am pumped. I mean, I can't tell you how amazing that is for us. I thank you so much in advance.
It's one of those things that you love, that you're like, I never thought I'd get the opportunity to do this, so it's great that it's happening. You know what I mean? So
likewise, I never thought I'd be doing this again at all. At 10 years, they tried to coerce me into doing it. I was like, no.
Yeah.
I'm producing records, no. But now I'm ready.
Well, listen, thanks for everything, not only the Exies stuff, but all the stuff that you've done with all these other artists, and you're omnipresent. You're always something that on our countdown on this show, which is a really cool thing.
Thank you so much.
We love having you, Scott.
It means the world. Thank you so much.
So thanks for coming by and hanging out with us today, and we look forward to this is happening Wednesday. Unbelievable. It's Wednesday at the Viper Room, and
we're going on at 8:30.
It's an early show. You got
an inverted headliner show.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to go on at 11 o'clock.
I get it.
On a Wednesday.
I get it. I absolutely understand.
You're happy. I'm happy about that too.
Yeah. Sometimes we'll have those nights, and I'm sure you've probably done it at some showcases. We're like, they're going on at what? 12:30? That used to be early. I was thinking back about like the early days of New York City with the Peppermint Lounge and CBGB's and the Mud Club and all those famous Danceteria. And I would go out, the headliner would go out at 2:30 in the morning, and I'd be like, what is going on? How are they staying awake? Well, we found out later, of course.
Yeah, that's right.
But anyway, it was pretty crazy, but I like the shows a little earlier. Some nights I want to stay out late, but
I think it's great that it's going early. It was Dennis's suggestion, and I agreed with it wholeheartedly, and so did the rest of the guys.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to it. So, Scott, thanks so much for coming by and hanging out with us.
Matt, thank you for having me on your legendary show. I can't tell you how many times I've watched this and listened to this, and it's an honor to be here. So thank you so much.
It's great to have you. And how great does it look, Scott?
It looks
when
amazing.
You came in, you're like,
I got a little
Flavia
intimidated
took
when
that
I walked
picture
in.
too, which is great. But thank you so much for coming by. It's great to have Scott Stevens right here on the air with us. KLOS, new and approved. I'm Matt Pinfield, and we'll see you soon.